up with the international airport, Dholera International Airport. The land is already in the possession of government, and it is a two-runway airport with each runway measuring more than 4 kilometers. And the tender has already been done for this thing, and the is started. Work is going to start in next 2-3 months. Ahmedabad Dholera 4-lane expressway. Again, Ahmedabad to Dholera is a distance of roughly 90 kilometers. We are building an expressway exclusively for Dholera, and this will reduce the travel time from Ahmedabad to Dholera to less than 1 hour. The work on the expressway has already been started, and the work can be seen on the ground. As a part of this very large area, we are developing a small area, which we call an activation area, in which 50% of the land is industrial area. In this 22.5 square kilometer area, this is the area where we have laid all the infrastructure, and there we are ready to invite the investors in this area. We are also coming up with a 5,000 megawatt solar park, out of which 1,000 megawatt solar park is already under development. And for the rest, 4,000 megawatt, we are in the process, and we hope to start the process by end of this year. We are also doing rail connectivity from Dholera through a dedicated Bhimnath Dholera freight corridor, and this will connect it to Western Railway and through that to Delhi Mumbai freight corridor. So a number of projects totaling more than 10,000 crores have been committed by Government of India and Government of Gujarat in this region, and are under various levels of implementation. These are just of the few photographs which I would like to show. This is our administrative and business center, road network as it exists today, power stations, auditorium, CETP, SETP, road infrastructure. So things are almost now on the verge of completion. I can say that 90% of the infrastructure is in place, and rest maximum we will finish by middle of next year. It has also got a lot of awards. As I told you, IGBC Green City Rating, Platinum Rating, Bentley B Inspired Award, and Best Green City Award. This is where I would like to leave you. For any kind of inquiries related to Dholera or any kind of assistance in identifying the land, location, information, please feel free to contact on this email. A special virtual cell has been created to look into all the issues. Thank you very much once again. On behalf of Government of Gujarat and Government of India, I would like to welcome the Honorable CM and all the people who have come to attend this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harit sir. Now, tech team, may I request you to put the virtual yeah. We are just showing a small video.
International Airport. Skydiving Smart Water Management System. Comprehensive solid waste management system has been set up at Dholera. Supply. Saying the renewable sources of energy is going on. Splendid city of solar park. 1,000 megawatts is already active. Focus on establishing its identity as one of the most livable is reflected in its unique spaces like canal, dedicated areas for social infrastructure and sustainable urban transportation. Taking a lead in the same direction, the government of Gujarat has ensured ease of doing business through fast-track governance, single window approvals, and time-bound clearances for entire Dholera SIR. Furthering Gujarat's identity of a policy-driven state, the Gujarat Industrial Policy 2020 offers significant incentives, including up to 12% return of fixed capital investment to industries in the thrust sectors, and various subsidies to MSMEs and service sectors. The recently announced Gujarat Solar Power Policy 2021 also aims to reduce the power costs of industrial units by around 50% by removing the capacity ceiling for setting up a solar project in the state. The infrastructural work is nearing completion in the activation area at Dholera. The administrative and business center for Dholera, that functions as the nerve center, is already operational with smart amenities and will soon accommodate state-of-the-art command and control center and skill development center. Land parcels with plug-and-play setup are ready for allotment with required availability of construction power and water. With this readiness of creating opportunities for New India, Dholera will soon be a home to a variety of dynamic industries, from sectors like heavy engineering, automobile and auto ancillary, defense and aerospace, electronics, pharmaceuticals and biotechnology, agro and food processing, and information technology services. Adding to the glory of Dholera, the government of Gujarat has recently announced Gujarat Special Education Region to be developed here as a global education hub, welcoming some of the most reputed universities and colleges from across the world. With a massive magnitude of developmental work taking shape each day, Dholera is turning into a reality and is now ready to welcome you and your aspirations. Live, work, and flourish in Dholera. Dholera, India's own global smart city.
Hello. Now I would like to invite Shri Sarafuddin Saraf sir from Saraf Group. He is the Vice Chairman and presently presently a vice chairman of the Saraf Group, and Saraf Group has a highly diversified business with operations in the area of shipping, logistics, supply chain, retail, travel and tourism, information technology, financial services, hospitality, real estate, education and manufacturing. May I invite Sarafuddin ji for his address, please?
Assalamu alaikum everybody and namaskar. Honorable Chief Minister Bhupendrabhai Patel, distinguished guests, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for giving me an opportunity to be associated with this event and share the podium with you all. I am here today speaking on behalf of UIBC, UAE India Business Council, and Sharaf Group of companies. Since the launch of Expo 2020 and the fantastic India Expo Pavilion, I have truly experienced and witnessed vibrant Gujarat and its vibrancy through the delegation which arrived in Dubai, UAE. And I can assure you they were straight on the job of talking to the existing business operators in Gujarat from UAE as well, and convincing the existing investor to invest more. They are truly the best vibrant force which has brought the vibrancy to the UAE as well. Honorable Chief Minister, please accept my congratulations on sending your best delegation to Dubai and Expo 2020. I am positive this will encourage many of our members to increase their allocations of investment in Gujarat. The state of Gujarat, as you all know, is one of the most diverse states in India, stretching out into the Arabian Sea with a hint of the desert and the coastline of 1,600 kilometers long. Historically, Gujarat has been the gateway for all the north and the central India, and this can be traced back to Port Lothal, which was operative from the Harappan days over 4,000 years ago. Enriched by the commercial activities of inhabitants, there's also clear historical evidence of trade and commerce ties, particularly with various Middle East countries. Gujarat, the home state of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, and the Iron Man of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and recently the state has also gained prominence for the world's tallest statue. The Statue of Unity, Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Bhai Modi, is truly promoting global unity all the time. After seeing the current development status in Gujarat, I also feel like saying, Upan Gujarati Cho. Thank you. I hope I pronounced it rightly. Led by the powerful leaders, the development of a state is undoubtedly unstoppable and incomparable. One of the leading industrialized states in India and also the diamond hub of the country. Gujarat offers a perfect model for economic progress and development for developing nations. Its significant contribution to the Indian economy has made India visible to a competitive market in the recent times. Gujarat, being the fifth largest, most progressive economy domestically in India, has now become a role model for many other states and nations to follow in order to achieve progressive and development at the fast pace for the benefit of its people and the nation. The state of Gujarat has the best infrastructure in terms of sea, ports along its coast, railway network, road network, power production, and net grade of industrial clusters and logistics network, which we saw now in Dholera. These infrastructures are the assets that have been the backbone of growth that would pave the way for potential growth in the future. talking about manpower that have contributed to make this happen. Gujarat's unemployment rate of 3.2 is a remarkable achievement under the current times. And I am sure with increased investments, it will become much lower. This reflects the unified teamwork and strategy of the government of Gujarat to achieve the maximum efficiency in terms of utilization of the resources of the state and its human talent. In the current financial year, Gujarat is expected to produce a GDP of over 270 billion US dollar and export of $56 billion. There are several new projects underway to build a much more robust infrastructure, like a multiple model logistic park at Sanand and a well-known ambitious project of GIFT City as India's prime financial hub, and the Ahmedabad-Mumbai highway speed rail corridor being developed at the cost of 15 billion. In addition, the development of international airport at Dholera and the emphasis on agro development and irrigation should bring Gujarat more prosperity and possibly a great potential to generate export of perishable products. Gujarat state has been recording milestone year over year with the influx of foreign direct investment in the state, which approximately used $47.8 billion for the previous financial year. Gujarat is on the way to do much better. Gujarat population, which consists of 45% of youth below the age of 25 years, will ensure the growth story continues. At Sharaf Group, we are committed to extend our presence of more than 24 offices in Gujarat to much more growth. UIBC is also working very closely with both governments to bring both businesses from both countries together and support them as much as we can. I would like to end here with a quote by Mr. Warren Buffett. He said, "Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago." I would just tweet it back like, not stop with the tree, rather than let's build the forest. One ma fun chai. There is always fun in the forest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We really love you as a Gujarati, sir. Thank you. I would like to invite Shri Sanjeev Kumar, IAS officer from Maharashtra cadre, and he has assumed the charge of Chairman, Airport Authority of India. And Shri Kumar possesses wide experience of infrastructure and finance sectors in Government of Maharashtra, Government of India. And prior to joining the AAI, he was working as State Commissioner GST, Government of Maharashtra. I would like to welcome Shri Sanjeev Kumar ji.
Thank you very much. I am indeed privileged to be participating in this session on Dholera, pioneering smart industrial development in India, being conducted in World Expo 2020, Dubai, in India Pavilion. It is indeed my pleasure to be with all of you, though through a video link. This World Expo 2020 is being held in 2021. We know because of the COVID reasons. And the fact that we are holding this expo, world is holding this expo and talking about development, proves the resilience of world economy, resilience of the world community, and its resolve to look forward for the development. Honorable CM of Gujarat, Honorable Chief Secretary, Additional Chief Secretary of Gujarat, senior officers of Gujarat, my colleague in Dholera International Airport, Harit Shukla, and other participants. when I was hearing the inaugural address of Harith, I was feeling very happy that ultimately an industrial estate is getting developed, which is the dream come true of all industrialists, where project size, where plot of every size would be available, where infrastructure which is well connected, all type of infrastructure need are being taken care of right from inception. Multimodal communication links are being planned. Having worked in the neighboring state of Maharashtra as joint CEO of Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation way back 15-16 years ago, I could understand the level of planning, the complexity in planning and execution, which must have gone in planning this Dholera smart industrial city. So my congratulations to Government of Gujarat and the team which is leading this development in Dholera, which is near Ahmedabad. Western part of the country has always been leader in industrial development of the country. And under the present regime, the industrial development is getting renewed focus. Not only the western part of the country, but other parts of the country are seeing renewed focus and vigor on industrial development. And I'm sure Dholera Industrial City would be the beacon of light for remaining area of the country. Our contribution as AEAI is planning a international airport in collaboration with Government of Gujarat and also National Industrial Corridor Development and Implementation Trust, which is the let's say more enlarged version of Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor. All three partners together have planned and would execute this international airport. And since all three major stakeholders are invested in this project, I'm sure this project would come on time, would be world-class, and would serve the need of industrial development in Dholera Industrial City. India is the significant part of the growth story of the world. As has been told earlier, fourth largest economy in terms of GDP, and we aspire to grow further. And I'm sure Dholera Industrial City would show the way how the industrial city can be planned, catering to the need of the small industries to the big industries, where the common infrastructure development is taken care of, and plug and play arrangements are being done for the industry to reduce their common cost. Coming back to the airport, this airport, as briefly touched by Harith, would be starting very soon. We hope to start the construction on ground on January 2022 onwards and hope to complete by December 2024, the first phase of it. All 3,500 acre has already been made available by Government of Gujarat. We are grateful to them. And this land has been given on long-term lease to the joint venture company, where AEAI is and Government of Gujarat and National Industrial Development Corridor are having shares. All approvals have already come to start the work. Environmental clearance is already there. Security clearance from MHA is also obtained. I would like to assure all participants in this seminar that having gotten all clearance, and we have also finalized the tender, the work would start very, very soon. In the first phase, we intend to develop 3,200 meter long runway, which will allow Code E type of aircraft to operate. And in phase 2, we will extend this runway from 3,200 meter to 800 meter. And in third phase, we will develop the second runway also, which will be, both runway would be capable of parallel operations. So when all three phases are done, then we can expect almost 100 million passengers per annum can be catered through this airport. So this airport would take care of very, very long-term need of Dholera Industrial City. Not only Dholera Industrial City, but neighboring areas also. To begin with, we will be constructing 12 aprons, so 12 aircrafts can be parked. The passenger terminal which we will be constructing would be of 20,000 square meters, so can take care of almost 3.5 million passengers per annum. We would also be constructing 3,000 square meter cargo terminal to take care of the need of industries for exporting directly from this airport. It would have separate ATC tower, so there won't be any issue in terms of navigation, CNS activities on the airport. And it will have all modern amenities in terms of navigation, communication, and radar surveillance. And also, the terminal equipment would be most modern, which will not only take care of the efficiency of operation, but also the convenience. And we would like to delight the passenger when they come to the airport by providing world-class, best of this class services to them. Since I am chairman of AI, so I thought I would take this opportunity to address this August gathering. Apart from Dholera International Airport, what else AI is doing? Airport Authority of India, many of you may be aware, is Government of India authority, which has been entrusted to the job of developing, operating airports. In all together, we operate 138 airports. And as a renewed push for involvement of the private sector, we are also involving our private partners in operating our airport. Additional monetization scheme pipeline of Government of India envisages that in next 3 years, we will be involving private partner in operating 25 airports. So in a way, we will be monetizing those 25 airports, and the resources generated from those airports would be used to develop many more airports in the country, in those areas which are not connected by air to other part of the country. So Government of India is very bullish on developing airport infrastructure across the country. We hope to cover almost all big districts by providing airport connectivity. Honorable Prime Minister's scheme of Ude Aam Aadmi, Udan scheme, where we are providing airport connectivity to the area which has not been connected, so that the common citizen can also take advantage of civil aviation, can reduce his time of travel, can increase his efficiency, and can also send and receive the produce from and across the world. I would like to, at the end, thanks the organizers to give me opportunity to speak to you. I feel privileged and indebted to you to give me this opportunity sitting in Delhi to speak to all of you, and would like to assure that we would make Dholera International Airport world class very soon, would start operating. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shri Bhupendra Patel ji, Chief Secretary Government of Gujarat, Shri Pankaj Kumar, senior officials of Gujarat government, Excellency Sharafuddin Sharaf, Chairman UIBC, distinguished speakers, participants, Namaskar and a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm delighted that the government of Gujarat is showcasing the investment opportunities and prospects for collaboration at Dholera Industrial City, putting India's first Greenfield Industrial City project on the world investment map. Considering all the positive factors and investment-friendly climate, I'm sure that Dholera will emerge as a significant destination for investors, both international and domestic, and will also become a driver for industrial activity and trade for the entire region. It will also catalyze India-UAE business engagement. UAE and India enjoy strong bonds of friendship based on age-old cultural and civilizational ties, primarily driven by trade. The bilateral relationship has matured and transformed into a comprehensive strategic partnership as both countries continue to explore deeper cooperation in new areas. Mutual engagements in the sectors of human capital, food security, and healthcare have gained in significance. UAE is an important and natural partner in India's growth and a gateway to the Middle East and North Africa region. Moreover, the presence of around 3.3 million Indian citizens in the UAE provides a deeper dimension to the bond between both the countries. The UAE is currently India's third largest trading partner and also India's second largest export destination. The trade basket of India with the UAE is well diversified. Food and agricultural products, gems and jewelry, petroleum products, chemicals, textiles, and leather products. However, there's a huge potential to expand trade in all these areas. In this backdrop, India and UAE are actively engaged at improving bilateral economic relations. Last month, a high-level UAE delegation led by the UAE Minister of State for International Trade visited India. And very recently, the Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution and Textiles, Shri Piyush Goyal ji, was here in Dubai to launch the India Pavilion and also to attend the India-UAE High-Level Task Force on Investments. The two nations formally launched negotiations for a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. The talks are expected to be concluded by the end of this year and a formal agreement signed subsequently early next year. The conclusion of the agreement will help to leverage the complementarities in trade between India and the UAE and see a quantum jump in the bilateral merchandise trade as well. The total investment of UAE in India amounting to US $13 to 14 billion, registering itself as the 10th biggest FDI investor for India. The investment primarily lies in 5 major sectors such as services, sea transport, power, construction activities, and construction development. UAE and India have both committed to facilitate the investment of $75 billion from the UAE into India. And such projects like the Dholera Industrial City project are significant platforms for facilitating this investment. And I do hope that the investors will capitalize on this opportunity. Gujarat accounts for around 6% of total FDI inflow into India till date, with top UAE companies such as DP World and Emaar already having made prominent investments in the state, with further investment opportunities emerging in the fields of textiles, infrastructure, IT, and ICT. I hope that Gujarat will continue to attract more investments in various sectors in the future as well. With the opening of the Expo 2020 in Dubai, the UAE has become the first country in the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia to host a World Expo in the 170-year history of the mega events. This event is expected to be the biggest event to be held in the Arab world. Expo 2020 Dubai heralds a post-pandemic economic recovery, which must be utilized to enable better collaboration between countries. The 6-month duration of the Expo 2020 is a unique global platform for India to attract investments, forge agreements, and promote international cooperation. Startups to multinationals can utilize the opportunity to catalyze collaboration, stimulate innovation, and create tangible opportunities in trade and investment. Over the course of the mega event, the India Pavilion will be hosting and co-creating leadership discussions, international trade conferences, and seminars like the current one to boost investment opportunities, and will also be exploring opportunities to partner with other participating nations. Besides, the India business and policymakers will have an opportunity to learn from experts in various fields like technology, trade, finance, investment, sustainability models, etc. In the true spirit of the theme of Expo 2020, we would be connecting minds and creating the future. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Aman Puriji. Now, I would like to invite Shri Bhupendra Patel. Shri Bhupendra Patel ji is recently sworn in as the Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat. He was a legislator from Ghatlodia in Ahmedabad. He has previously served as the chairman of the Ahmedabad Urban Development Authority and also the chairman of the Standing Committee of Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation. Shri Bhupendra Patel ji.
Consulate General Sri Aman Puri, Sri Sarafuddin Saraf, Airport Authority of India na Chairman Sri Sanjeev Kumar, Chief Secretary Gujarat Pankaj Kumar, Dholera SIR Limited na MD Sri Harit Shukla, વિવિધ ચેમ્બર ઓફ કોમર્સના પદાધિકારીઓ, સંયુક્ત આરબ અમીરાતમાં આયોજિત દુબઈ એક્સપો 2020માં ઇન્ડિયા પેવેલિયન ખાતે ઉપસ્થિત તમામ મહાનુભાવો અને વર્ચ્યુઅલ માધ્યમથી જોડાયેલા સૌ મિત્રોનું સમગ્ર ગુજરાત વતી સ્વાગત કરું છું. સંયુક્ત આરબ અમીરાતની સરકાર દુબઈ સ્થાનિક પ્રશાસન અને તમામ સહયોગીઓનો એક્સપોના ભવ્ય આયોજન બદલ વિશેષ અભિનંદન આપું છું. વિશ્વ આખું કોરોના મહામારીને કારણે ડામાડોળ આર્થિક પરિસ્થિતિમાં છે ત્યારે તેમાં નવું બળ પૂરવામાં આ ઐતિહાસિક દુબઈ એક્સપો 2020 કારણરૂપ બનશે એવો મને વિશ્વાસ છે. વર્લ્ડ એક્સપોની આ પરંપરાએ વૈશ્વિક વેપારને માત્ર વૃદ્ધિ જ નહીં પરંતુ સમયાનુકૂળ નવી દિશા પણ આપી છે. સેવા કે ઉત્પાદનોની આપલે સાથે સાથે આઈડિયા એક્સચેન્જ માટેનું આ વૈશ્વિક ફલક છે. પહેલા દેશાવરમાં વ્યાપાર વણતથી જે કડી હતી તે હવે આ વર્લ્ડ એક્સપોએ ગ્લોબલ પ્લેટફોર્મ પર મૂકી છે. આ વૈશ્વિક ફલક પર વર્લ્ડ એક્સપો પ્રથમવાર મિડલ ઇસ્ટ નેશનમાં યુએઈમાં યોજાઈ રહ્યો છે. ભારત અને સંયુક્ત આરબ અમીરાતના સંબંધ દાયકાઓ જૂના અને મજબૂત છે. આપણે વર્ષોથી એકબીજાની મિત્રતા નિભાવતા આવ્યા છે અને અનેક ક્ષેત્રોમાં એકબીજાનો સહકાર અને સહયોગ મેળવી રહ્યા છે. ભારત અને સંયુક્ત આરબ અમીરાત વચ્ચે વર્ષોથી દરિયાઈ માર્ગે વેપાર થતો આવ્યો છે. યુએઈ આજે ભારતનું સૌથી મોટું ટ્રેડિંગ પાર્ટનર છે. ભારતમાં મૂડીરોકાણ કરનારા દેશોમાં યુએઈ 9મા નંબરે છે. ભારત અને સંયુક્ત આરબ અમીરાતના આવા બહુઆયામી સંબંધોમાં ગુજરાત મહત્વની ભૂમિકામાં રહ્યું છે. સાંસ્કૃતિક હોય કે વ્યાપારિક સંબંધો હોય, યુએઈની ધરતી પર રહી ગુજરાતીઓ હંમેશા યુએઈના વિકાસમાં યથાશક્તિ યોગદાન આપતા આવ્યા છે. અહીં 40% વસ્તી ભારતીય મૂળની છે. ગુજરાતીઓના લોહીમાં જ વેપાર, વણજ, ઉદ્યોગ, સાહસિકતા વણાયેલા છે. એટલે જ કહેવાય છે કે જ્યાં જ્યાં વસે એક ગુજરાતી ત્યાં સદાકાળ ગુજરાત. વિદેશની ધરતી ઉપર ગુજરાતી સમુદાયો, વેપાર, ઉદ્યોગકારોએ કાઠું કાઢ્યું છે. તેમ હવે તો ગુજરાત પણ વિશ્વભરના લોકો માટે બેસ્ટ ડેસ્ટિનેશન ફોર ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ બન્યું છે. આઈઈએમ કરવામાં ગુજરાત દેશમાં પ્રથમ નંબરે છે. ગુજરાત સરકારની ઇનોવેટિવ પોલિસીને કારણે ગુજરાત ગ્લોબલ બિઝનેસ હબ બની ચૂક્યું છે. ગુજરાતની ગ્રોસ ડોમેસ્ટિક પ્રોડક્ટ $267 બિલિયન અમેરિકન ડોલર છે. ભારતના કુલ ઔદ્યોગિક ઉત્પાદનમાં ગુજરાત 18% હિસ્સો ધરાવે છે. દેશની કુલ નિકાસમાં ગુજરાતનો હિસ્સો 20% સુધીનો વધુ છે. અતિ આધુનિક માળખાકીય સુવિધાઓ અને મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગ માટેની નવીનતમ ઇકોસિસ્ટમને કારણે ગુજરાત દેશ વિદેશની કંપનીઓ માટે સૌથી પ્રિય સ્થાન બની ચૂક્યું છે. ગુજરાત ભારત દેશનું સૌથી વધુ વિદેશી મૂડીરોકાણ મેળવતું રાજ્ય છે. કોરોના કાળમાં 2020માં ભારતના કુલ એફડીઆઈના $30 મિલિયન અમેરિકન ડોલરમાં ગુજરાતનો એકલાનો 37% હિસ્સો છે. એન્જિનિયરિંગ, ઓટો પાર્ટ્સ, ટેક્સટાઇલ, ફાર્માસ્યુટિકલ, કેમિકલ, પેટ્રોકેમિકલ, જેમ અને જ્વેલરી જેવા ક્ષેત્રોમાં ગુજરાત દેશનું અગ્રીમ રાજ્ય છે. સૌથી લાંબો 1600 કિલોમીટરનો દરિયા કિનારો ગુજરાતને ભૌગોલિક રીતે મોકાનું સ્થાન આપે છે. એક મેજર પાર્ટ અને 48 નોન મેજર પાર્ટને કારણે ગુજરાત મિડલ ઇસ્ટ, આફ્રિકા અને યુરોપ સાથેના દરિયાઈ માર્ગે વ્યાપારનું ગેટવે બની ચૂક્યું છે. વડાપ્રધાન શ્રી નરેન્દ્રભાઈ મોદીની આગેવાનીમાં મેક ઇન ઇન્ડિયા અભિયાનને વધુ સફળ બનાવવા કેન્દ્ર સરકારે પ્રોડક્શન લિંક ઇન્સેન્ટિવ PLI યોજના લાગુ કરી છે. તે દેશની ગ્રોસ ડોમેસ્ટિક પ્રોડક્ટ અને એક્સપોર્ટમાં વધુ વૃદ્ધિ કરશે. ગુજરાત સરકારે PLI સ્કીમ હેઠળ 13 ક્ષેત્રો નિયત કર્યા છે. તેમાં રાજ્યમાં મેન્યુફેક્ચરિંગ અને પ્રોડક્શન માટેનું ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર અભૂતપૂર્વ ઉમેરો કરશે અને વધુ ક્ષમતાવાન બનાવશે. એક્સપોર્ટ પ્રિપેરેડનેસ ઇન્ડેક્સ 2020, સ્ટાર્ટઅપ રેન્કિંગ 2019 અને નેશનલ લોજિસ્ટિક પરફોર્મન્સ ઇન્ડેક્સ 2019માં ગુજરાત દેશમાં પ્રથમ નંબરે છે. ઇઝ ઓફ ડુઇંગ બિઝનેસ અને ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ પોટેન્શિયલ ક્ષેત્રે ગુજરાત અગ્રીમ સ્થાન છે. ગુજરાતનું ઇન્ટરનેશનલ ફાઇનાન્સ ટેક સિટી ગિફ્ટ સિટી દેશનું પ્રથમ ઇન્ટરનેશનલ ફાઇનાન્સ ટ્રાન્ઝેક્શન સુવિધા આપતું આગવું કેન્દ્ર બની ચૂક્યું છે. નીતિ આયોગના ઇન્ડિયા ઇનોવેશન ઇન્ડેક્સ 2019 પ્રમાણે ગુજરાત દેશમાં સૌથી વધુ સ્કિલ્ડ મેન પાવર ધરાવનાર બીજા સ્થાને છે. આજે ગુજરાતની ચર્ચા વિશ્વના વિકસિત દેશોની સાથે થાય છે. ભારતમાં વિકાસના રોલ મોડેલ બનેલા ગુજરાતની આ વિકાસ યાત્રામાં એન્વાયરમેન્ટ, ગ્લોબલ વોર્મિંગ, એર વોટર કે સોઇલ પોલ્યુશન રૂકાવટ ન બને તે રીતે ગ્રીન ટેકનોલોજી અને એન્વાયરમેન્ટ ફ્રેન્ડલી હોલિસ્ટિક ડેવલપમેન્ટની દિશા ગુજરાતે લીધી છે. વડાપ્રધાન શ્રી નરેન્દ્રભાઈ મોદીએ આપેલા કન્વીનિયન્ટ એક્શનના સિદ્ધાંતોને અમે ભૂલ્યા નથી. રિન્યુએબલ એનર્જીના સ્ત્રોતોને મહત્તમ ઉપયોગ અમે કરતા આવ્યા છીએ અને કરી રહ્યા છીએ. રાજ્યમાં સૌર ઉર્જા, પવન ઉર્જા સહિતની હરિત ઉર્જાના ઉત્પાદનને પૂરતું પ્રોત્સાહન અપાઈ રહ્યું છે. ગુજરાત રિન્યુએબલ એનર્જીની 13,000 મેગાવોટ ઇન્સ્ટોલ કેપેસિટી ધરાવે છે. ભારતના ટોપ 50 સ્વચ્છ શહેરોમાં ગુજરાતના 12 શહેરોનો સમાવેશ થાય છે. આમ સ્વચ્છતા, પર્યાવરણ અને ગ્રીન એનર્જી કન્સેપ્ટ સાથે ભૌતિક વિકાસ કરવાના નવા બેન્ચમાર્ક પ્રસ્થાપિત કર્યો છે અને એટલે જ ધોલેરા ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ સ્માર્ટ સિટી માટે અમે નવા બેન્ચમાર્ક સેટ કર્યા છે તેવું ગર્વભેર કહી શકીએ છીએ. આ બધું શક્ય બન્યું કારણ કે ગુજરાત રાજ્ય પોલિસી ડ્રીવન સ્ટેટ છે. રાજ્યમાં ઉદ્યોગના વિકાસ માટેની રીતિનીતિ કેન્દ્રમાં ઇનોવેશન, એડવાન્સમેન્ટ, ટેકનોલોજી, એડોપ્શન, એમ્પ્લોયમેન્ટ જનરેશન રહેલો છે. પરિણામે ગુજરાતમાં એમએસએમઈ સેક્ટરનું સસ્ટેનેબલ અને બેલેન્સ્ડ ડેવલપમેન્ટ થયું છે. ગુજરાતની નવી ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ પોલિસી 2020 આ ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ ઇકોસિસ્ટમને વધુ મજબૂત કરશે. આત્મનિર્ભર ભારતના સ્વપ્નને સાકાર કરવા ગુજરાત આ નવી ઔદ્યોગિક નીતિ થકી લગભગ 40,000 કરોડના પ્રોત્સાહન આગામી 5 વર્ષમાં ઉદ્યોગ ગૃહોને આપવાનું છે. કોરોના પછી જે ઉદ્યોગ વેપારકારો કે રિલોકેટ થવા માગે છે તેમના માટે ગુજરાત બેસ્ટ ચોઇસ બની રહે તે માટે આ ઇન્સેન્ટિવ પોલિસીસ મહત્વપૂર્ણ બની રહેશે. વડાપ્રધાન શ્રી નરેન્દ્રભાઈ મોદીએ આત્મનિર્ભર ભારત, મેક ઇન ઇન્ડિયાનો જે મંત્ર આપ્યો છે તેને દેશ વિદેશના ઉદ્યોગ રોકાણકારોને ગુજરાતમાં આકર્ષિત કરીને 100% ચરિતાર્થ કરવાની અમારી નેમ છે. આ માટે સ્પેશિયલ ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ રિજિયન ઉપર ગુજરાત સરકાર વિશેષ ભાર આપી રહી છે. ધોલેરા સ્પેશિયલ ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ રિજિયન આવા રિજિયનમાં સૌથી મોખરે છે. વડાપ્રધાન શ્રી નરેન્દ્રભાઈ મોદીએ ગુજરાતના મુખ્યમંત્રી તરીકે ધોલેરા શહેરને વિશ્વ કક્ષાનું ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ સ્માર્ટ સિટી બનાવવાનું સપનું જોયેલ. ધોલેરા શહેર ગ્રીનફિલ્ડ પ્રોજેક્ટ ગુજરાતના મેગા મેટ્રો સિટી અમદાવાદથી માત્ર 100 કિલોમીટર અંતરે વિકસી રહ્યું છે. આર્થિક અને સામાજિક દ્રષ્ટિએ સંતુલિત એવા આ વર્લ્ડ ક્લાસ ન્યૂ એજ ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર સિટીના આયોજન અને વિકાસ માટે ધોલેરા સ્પેશિયલ ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ રિજિયન ડેવલપમેન્ટ ઓથોરિટીની રચના કરી છે. લગભગ 920 સ્ક્વેર કિલોમીટરના વિશાળ વિસ્તારમાં ફેલાયેલું ધોલેરા સિટી અમદાવાદ ધોલેરા તાલુકાના 22 ગામડાઓ આવરી લે છે. ધોલેરા શહેર ભવિષ્યમાં અમદાવાદ શહેર કરતાં પણ મોટું શહેર બનવાનું છે. ભૌગોલિક રીતે ધોલેરા શહેર અમદાવાદ, બરોડા, રાજકોટ અને ભાવનગરની વચ્ચે મોકાના સ્થળે નિર્માણ પામી રહ્યું છે. ભારત સરકારના મેગા નેશનલ ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર પ્રોજેક્ટ ડીએમઆઈસી નો 38% ભાગ ગુજરાતમાંથી પસાર થાય છે. ધોલેરા શહેર આ કોરિડોરનો એક ભાગ છે, એટલે ભવિષ્યમાં ઔદ્યોગિક ગતિવિધિઓ અહીં મોટા પાયે વિકાસ પામશે. ધોલેરા શહેરમાં સસ્ટેનેબલ ડેવલપમેન્ટની પરિકલ્પનાને સાકાર કરવા માટે નેક્સ્ટ જનરેશન ટેકનોલોજી, સ્ટેટ ઓફ ધી આર્ટ ફેસિલિટીઝ સાથેની વેલ પ્લાન સિટીનું નિર્માણ કરવાની નેમ છે. લેન્ડ ટાઇટલ ક્લિયરન્સ સાથે મોટી જમીનો, એન્વાયરમેન્ટ ક્લિયરન્સ, પ્લગ ઓફ પ્લે ફેસિલિટી, સૌથી ઓછો વીજ કનેક્ટિવિટી જેવી સમયના અનુકૂળ સુવિધાઓ આપણે અહીં પૂરી પાડી છે. એરોસ્પેસ, ડિફેન્સ, એન્જિનિયરિંગ, ઓટો પાર્ટ્સ, ફાર્માસ્યુટિકલ, ઇન્ફોર્મેશન ટેકનોલોજી, ઇલેક્ટ્રોનિક, એગ્રો ફૂડ પ્રોસેસિંગ, રિન્યુએબલ એનર્જી ક્ષેત્રના ઉદ્યોગો માટે ધોલેરા શહેર બેસ્ટ પોટેન્શિયલ ધરાવે છે. અત્યારે ધોલેરા નેશનલ અને સ્ટેટ હાઈવે સાથે જોડાયેલું છે. નજીકના ભવિષ્યમાં અમદાવાદ સાથે એક્સપ્રેસ વેથી પણ જોડાઈ જશે. રેલવે અને એર કનેક્ટિવિટી પણ મળી જશે. ધોલેરા શહેરથી 350 કિલોમીટરની રેડિયસમાં આવેલા અમદાવાદ શહેર, પીપાવાવ પોર્ટ, કંડલા પોર્ટ, મુદ્રા પોર્ટ, નિર્માણાધીન ભાવનગર સીએનજી પોર્ટ વગેરે ધોલેરા શહેરને સિમ સેલ લોજિસ્ટિક એન્ડ સપ્લાય ચેઇન પૂરી પાડશે. એરપોર્ટ ઓથોરિટી ઓફ ઇન્ડિયાએ ઇન્ટરનેશનલ એરપોર્ટ માટેનું કામ શરૂ કરી દીધું છે. આ એરપોર્ટ 2024 સુધીમાં કાર્યરત થઈ જશે અને વિરાટ કાર્ગો સેવા સાથે કાર્યરત થશે. ધોલેરા શહેર ભવિષ્યનું સૌથી અતિ આધુનિક સ્માર્ટ ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રી સિટી બનવા જઈ રહ્યું છે. ગુજરાતના ઔદ્યોગિક વિકાસનો એક નવા યુગ, નવા એરાથી અહીં શરૂઆત થશે. એટલા માટે જ અમે ધોલેરાને અ ન્યૂ એરા એમ કહીએ છીએ. ધોલેરા શહેર ગિફ્ટ સિટી, વાઇબ્રન્ટ ગુજરાત સમિટ જેવા અનેક પ્રકલ્પો અને આયોજનથી ગુજરાતને ન્યૂ એરા નવા યુગમાં લઈ જવાનો પ્રયાસ સફળ થયો છે. ગુજરાતની અઢી દાયકાથી સુદૃઢ વિકાસ યાત્રામાં જો કોઈ એક મહત્વનું પરિબળ હોય તો તે છે શ્રી નરેન્દ્રભાઈ મોદી શરૂ કરેલી વાઇબ્રન્ટ ગુજરાત સમિટની પરંપરા. ગુજરાતને ભારતનું ગ્રોથ એન્જિન બનાવવા પાછળ વાઇબ્રન્ટ ગુજરાત સમિટનું મોટું યોગદાન છે. વાઇબ્રન્ટ ગુજરાત સમિટ દરમિયાન વ્યાપાર નીતિ, કેપિટલ સબસિડી, ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ સબસિડી, વેલ્યુ એડેડ ટેક્સમાં વળતર, ફેર સબસિડી, વિવિધ દરમાં ઇન્સેન્ટિવ જેવા વિવિધ પ્રોત્સાહનો રાહતો જાહેર કરીને ગુજરાતે બિઝનેસ ફ્રેન્ડલી, ઇન્વેસ્ટમેન્ટ ફ્રેન્ડલી સ્ટેટ તરીકે વિશ્વ ફલક પર પ્રસ્થાપિત કર્યું છે. યુએઈના વેપાર, ઉદ્યોગ સાહસિકો અને મૂડીરોકાણોને આગામી વાઇબ્રન્ટ ગુજરાત સમિટ 2022માં સહભાગી બને તેમજ યુએઈ પર સરકાર વાઇબ્રન્ટ ગુજરાત સમિટ 2022માં પોતાનું એક ઉચ્ચ સ્તરીય પ્રતિનિધિ મંડળ મોકલે તે માટે ભાવભર્યું આમંત્રણ પાઠવું છું. આ સમિટમાં આવનાર ઉદ્યોગ સાહસિકો અને મૂડીરોકાણો ભારતના સર્વપ્રથમ ગ્રીનફિલ્ડ સ્માર્ટ ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ સિટી ધોલેરા શહેરની મુલાકાત લઈ અહીં જે ફિલ્મમાં જોયું છે તેને વાસ્તવિક રૂપે સાકાર થઈ રહેલું પણ જોઈ શકશે. ગુજરાત પાસે રેલ, એર, વોટર અને ડિજિટલ કનેક્ટિવિટીનું રોબસ્ટ ઇન્ફ્રાસ્ટ્રક્ચર તો છે જ, સાથોસાથ રિન્યુએબલ એનર્જી બેસ્ડ પોલિસીસ, ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ ફ્રેન્ડલી એન્વાયરમેન્ટ અને બિઝનેસ એક્યુમેનનો સંગમ પણ છે. વિશ્વભરના વેપાર ઉદ્યોગને અમારું નિમંત્રણ છે. આવો ગુજરાતમાં રોકાણ કરો અને તમારા કારોબાર વેપાર વણજને વિશ્વ ફલક પર વિકસાવવાની તક ઝડપી લો. વેલકમ ટુ ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રીયલ સ્માર્ટ સિટી ધોલેરા ઇન્ડસ્ટ્રી સિટી and set new benchmark for your business and industrial development. Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Jai Garvi Gujarat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for an inspiring address. Now, I would like to invite Shri Ankur Gupta. He is the head of corporate affairs and growth for Tata Sons, Middle East and North Africa, and is also responsible for providing policy, communications and business growth guidance and support to Tata Group companies in the region. He is based out of Dubai since 2019 and now leads the corporate affairs for Tata Sons MENA office since July 2021. Shri Ankur Gupta ji. Can you put on the laptop, tech team?
Good afternoon. Thank you to the Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Bhupendra Patel, Your Excellency, Dr. Puri, Dr. Pankaj Kapoor, Mr. Harit Shukla, Shri Sanjeev Kumar. Thank you for the opportunity to the Tata Group to come and share our thoughts and our participation at the Dholera SIR. I'm representing Tata Chemicals because we are one of the anchor companies and we are very happy to be part of the Dholera development. Many of you would be familiar with the Tata Group. We are a 153-year-old Indian conglomerate, and one of the reasons for putting up this slide was our association to Gujarat dates back to early 1800s when our founder, Mr. J.N. Tata, was born in a small town of Gujarat, Navsari. We've maintained that relationship with many of our large businesses having Gujarat at its foundation. While Tata Group, of course, is a big corporate entity in India, we also have significant presence in Middle East and North Africa. And I'll take a minute to share that with all of you because we're extremely proud that we've been in this region for over 50 years. We have 23 Tata companies who operate out of Middle East and North Africa, many of them headquartered out of Dubai. And we have about 12,000 employees who support a revenue of a little over $3 billion in this part of the world. And we've also shaped this region in many ways, including some of the iconic landmarks like the Burj Khalifa, like the Yas Mall of the Emirates, and the exhibition center at Dubai Expo as well. All of us should be proud of what an Indian company is also doing in this part of the world. Tata Chemicals also has a very strong Gujarat association since Sri Kapil Ram Vakil actually founded this company in 1938, and the pivotal point was Mithapur, Okha, very close to Dwarka. Tata Chemicals is the world's third largest soda ash producer, sixth largest sodium bicarbonate producer, and also has the largest salt works in Asia. And the state of Gujarat and the site at Mithapur is a very, very, very strong part, a very large part of our presence there. Tata Chemicals currently is organized around 3 business verticals, which include performance materials, which cover some of the soda ash, bicarb kind of products which I was talking about. We also have a highly dispersed silica manufacturing facility, which we have set up recently. When it comes to agrochemicals, agrosciences, one of our group companies, Rallis, is one of the largest crop care companies in India and services more than 5 million farmers. And our last vertical is nutritional sciences. We are probably India's first and only company to have a nutritional sciences division. And apart from food and food grade bicarb, we've also come up with phosphins and gossins, which are going into a lot of dietary products. Some of the new areas which Tata Chemicals is exploring include biofuels, surfactants, hydrogen, and energy. And this is where Dholera has a role for us to play. Tata Chemicals is, of course, a manufacturing-driven company. We have presence on 4 continents, manufacturing facilities in the UK, in US, and Africa, and India. In India, we have a large presence in Gujarat and also have manufacturing facilities in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. So we understand the lay of the land, but we still are hungry to expand and we are still looking at right opportunities to invest in the country. When there was need for expansion for some of the new businesses which we were speaking about, we looked at opportunities available in India, which have looked at all the states. There was a multi-state study conducted. We had hired independent consultants. We looked at 64 factors, which was a combination of key elements which you look at before choosing a project site. Whether the land permit is clear, the licenses are clear, what is the status of utilities, how is the connectivity, how much time would all the environmental clearances take, etc., etc. We are happy to say after a very detailed study, Dholera was chosen and we've been allocated 127 acres of land at Dholera, which we will be using for one of the new facilities, one of the new manufacturing industries, which is going to be a large commitment from the group side. Due to the pandemic, we are still awaiting some of the final details and will make an announcement when we are ready with this. The key reason for the choice of Dholera for us, apart from the relationship we have, is specifically the government of Gujarat, their business-friendly policies, and the fact that they do what they say. So it's very, very, very easy to work with them. Gujarat being a past surplus state and power being an essential element of our manufacturing facilities, as well as their focus on renewables. You would have also heard my colleague, Mr. Ashish Khanna from Tata Power, talk about the solar park which they're setting up. All of these were key enablers for us to set up our facility, upcoming facility in Dholera. We look forward to being a part of this and working together with Dholera SIR to build a new ecosystem around it. Thank you so much. Thank you for this time.
Thank you, Shri Akur Gupta ji. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Swarnlata. She is presently working as the Director of Commercial Underwriting at Etihad Credit Insurance. She is also responsible for leading the initial risk assessments for the prospective clients, ensuring accurate valuation of risks pertinent to Federal Export Credit Company products and services. Ms. Swarnlata, please.
You all can hear me. Afternoon, and Patel and all the guests here. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to represent UAE Federal Export Credit Company at Etihad Export Credit Insurance at the Dholera Investment Seminar here at Expo 2020 Dubai. I would like to congratulate the Gujarat government for creating this Dholera, the first largest and green community industrial city, which is located in an it is an inviolable achievement by the Gujarat government towards the humanity's trust towards a sustainable world. By virtue of Vision 2021, UAE is achieving a diversity and coming out of the dependency on the oil. And this is one of the focus of UAE also to develop a sustainable projects within the UAE. In Etihad Export Credit Insurance plays a catalyst role in support of promoting the UAE's Vision 2021 in terms of export of trade, investments, and also the development goals of the UAE Vision 2021 economic agenda. ECI is serving more than 21 sectors and 87 countries across the globe. Dubai non-oil foreign trade has been increased and grew around 31% year on year in the first half of 2021, and which is around 722.3 billion dirhams. Value of trade between India and UAE is massive, and it is considered as second largest trade partner of UAE. And there are a lot of bilateral agreements between India and UAE, which also helps us to establish a good relationship with India, and particularly the projects like Dholera, which is in the vibrant state of India, Gujarat. Today, I'm going to also talk a brief about the sustainable industrial cities and what is the impact of creating a sustainable industrial city development across the globe, and the significant trends to the positive impact it brings to the globe and to the people and to the community, which has borne the brunt of industrial growth over the centuries. I will also speak about the remarkable projects ECI has been involved in achieving the sustainable development goals in the UAE. Now back to the topic, sustainable cities are defined as one of the major and the powerhouses, economic powerhouses. Why we call it as economic powerhouses? Because of the low carbon industrialization they use, and also that the sustainable and inclusive industrialized cities, they also provide opportunities, fostering synergies and economic growth from the environmental degradation, reducing it, while creating employment and fostering the clean energy innovations. In addition to this, benefits the role of industries in the local economic development through job creations and the growth of the state. It will be an honor to say that today's financial decisions and the economical developmental goals cannot be detached from the social and environmental challenges we are facing on day-to-day basis due to this increased pollutions and other factors which are affecting the globe. The creation of sustainable industrial cities is not only important to identify and implement the real and sustainable solutions, but also to work towards to make a concrete impact on the future. This is what we can say that, and this is where we congratulate Gujarat government for creating this Dholera, the industrial development city. And coming back to what Etihad Export Credit Insurance is supporting in view of the bilateral agreements between India and UAE, and also to the other partner countries of UAE, ECI strives to support the UAE's leaders' vision of creating sustainable communities to present a better and peaceful world to the future generations. This is one of the key main tasks for us. ECI has done a great deal since its inception to achieve these goals by strengthening our country's position as a global leader in sustainable development and supporting the United Nations goal of developing resilient infrastructure, fostering industries and sustainable industrialization and encouraging innovation. This is the main focus of UAE for the 2021 vision, and also I will come speak a brief note about what is the energy UAE is talking about for 2050 goals. A major part of the reflects ECI's strong resolve to creating sustainable cities in the partnership with Masdar, which is the Abu Dhabi Future Energy Company. This agreement entails the exploration of establishing political and commercial risk insurance solutions to improve the bankability and also to get the more capital adequacy to Masdar's renewable projects, which are located in the domestic market as well as outside the country. That's where ECI is supporting Masdar in terms of the clean energy projects. Another project that showcases ECI's sustainability development vision is its collaboration with Emirates Water to Waste-to-Water Energy Solutions. It is a joint venture between BIA and the Masdar to develop the UAE's first solar landfill located in that project is located in Sharjah and boost the Emirates renewable energy generation in terms of, and that's where ECI is also supporting those projects in the green energy sector. It incorporates technology. This project is basically to incorporate technologies to generate energy from the waste, making it affordable and also accessible for the developing nations. Our coordination in growth of energy and sustainability sector comes in line with the country's energy vision, which is 2050. The strategy aims to allocate over 600 billion to success the contribution of clean energy projects in total capacity of 50%, out of which 44% is renewable energy and 6% comes from the nuclear by 2050. This is the aim of our leaders, and we are there to support our leaders in this agenda. And that's where we see a lot of synergies based on the bilateral agreements we have with India to collaborate and to support each other in this vision. It also aims to reduce the carbon footprints of generations by 70% and thus saving AED 700 billion by 2050. This is the aim of Energy 2050 agenda of UAE leaders. We realize and promote the creation of sustainable cities as UAE, as Etihad Export Credit Insurance, and because of it, it is the need of our time, not only because of that factor, but also the destiny of generations to come along with its mandate to diversify the economy from the dependency of the oil. We are here to support, and the ECI is steadfast in supporting UAE's leaders' vision of building a world inspired and driven by a sustainable development strategies. With that, I would like to conclude my speech and thank you all for your attention, and congratulations once again to Dholera for this very important and a strategic project. And we wish all the best to the Dholera team and the Gujarat government and Indian government. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Swarnlata ji. We would like to welcome Dr. B.U. Abdullah. He is here. We would like to thank him for his presence here. He is the chairman of the B.U. Abdullah Group. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Neelam Rani, IFS. Ms. Neelam Rani is IFS officer of 2009 batch, and she is the Managing Director of Industrial Extension Bureau, Index B. And she is also holding an additional charge of Industries Commissioner and Office of Industries Commissioner, Government of Gujarat, for vote of thanks. Ms. Neelam Rani, please.
I thank you, Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shri Bhupender Bhai Patel, for his inspiring presence. Shri Pankaj Kumar, Chief Secretary, Government of Gujarat. Officers from Government of Gujarat, Excellency Sarafuddin Saraf, Consular General of India, Shri Aman Puri, distinguished guests from UAE, and all the participants present here and connected virtually from India. Thank you very much for being with us. Dubai Expo has turned out to be a platform converging ideas, business, culture, and various civilizations together. I'm confident the ideas generating out of deliberations would surely open up the new avenues of collaboration and go a long way in forging enhanced partnership. Dholera is a greenfield project of Government of Gujarat that testifies the vision of a progressive and foresighted government that is very keen to make Gujarat the most preferred destination globally. With advanced infrastructure and robust connectivity, Dholera will pave the way for the next industrial revolution in Gujarat. Gujarat, a land of opportunity, a land of legends and lions, a land of color, vibrancy and happiness. Welcome you all. Come, experience, and be the part of the story of growth and progress. I take this opportunity to invite all of you to the upcoming Vibrant Gujarat Summit in January 2022. We look forward to having a high-level delegation, as Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat mentioned in his speech, to the Vibrant Gujarat Summit 2022. Once again, I thank the host, organizer, and all the participants for making this seminar a success. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the vote of thanks. And without further we are moving to the next session. Basically, a panel discussion on the industrial smart city, defying the myth. So I would like to invite Shri Naresh Panfat, Steering Committee Board Member, In5 UAE, on the dais, please. Mr. Naresh Panfat is currently a Steering Committee Board Member at the In5 Dubai UAE Government's Premier Startup Incubation Authority and Senior Leader for Investments and Growth at the Founder Institute of GCC region. He is also a Wharton certified CFO and ADP holder, national rank holder, chartered accountant and qualified valuer with 22 plus years of illustrious international career into corporate finance, mergers and acquisition deals, advisory, valuations, etc. In the panelists, we would like to invite Shri Jagdish Salgaonkar. He has been spearheading the Dholera Special Investment Region for more than 7 years. He has also worked in the large smart city programs like Masdar in Abu Dhabi and also currently advising on the NEOM development in Saudi Arabia. We would also like to invite Shri Amit Bharadwaj. He has been the Chief Commercial Officer at the APM Terminals Pipavav since October 2020 and was previously the CCO for APM Terminals Mumbai, also known as GTI, from August 2016. I would also like to invite Shri Abhishek Chaudhary. Shri Abhishek, he will be joining virtually. Mr. Abhishek Chaudhary ji is presently working as the Vice President Corporate Affairs, HR and Company Secretary of the National Industrial Corridor Development Corporation, NICDC. He has wide experience in the field of strategic planning and management, secretarial and legal matters, project financing, public partnership projects, and Shri Srinath Rao is presently working as the SBG head of roads, runways, elevated corridors, special bridges, and L&T transport infrastructure. And in various capacities, he has worked in various capacities in India and Malaysia for the initial 20 years before taking up the position of business head in UAE. Shri Srinath Rao. So we would like to start the panel discussion. Hand over the mic to Shri Naresh Fanfat.
Namaskar to one and all. What a proud privilege it is to be the moderator for this panel discussion on industrial smart city defying the myth. We are here in the first week of Expo 2020 at India Pavilion under the multi-able leadership and grand vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President and Prime Minister of United Arab Emirates and the ruler of Dubai. The gracious virtual presence of Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shri Bhupendra Bhai Ji Patel. Your Excellency, Mr. Sharafuddin Sharaf. Your Excellency, Mr. Aman Puri. Your Excellency, Mr. Abu Abdullah, a big follower of your tweets. Other dignitaries, esteemed panelists, eminent audience members, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this panel discussion on industrial smart city defying the myth. I remember some time back, it was touted that the future would lie in the tier 2 or tier 3 cities, the lower rung cities or the rural areas. But as more and more people wanted to shift towards cities with aspirations and they aspire to be in cities, cities turned out to be mega cities. And then mega cities are now wanting to be smart cities. Or they really are. Let's get into this important discussion. I'm trying to break today's panel discussion into 4 subparts. The first part would be the conceptual thematic framework of smart city in general. Then in the second section, we look at the global smart cities advancements and benchmarks. There's a third section which talks about Indian smart cities, the developmental policies and roadmap. And then we talk about Gujarat in general and Dholera in specific as a smart city, its unique salient features. So let's begin with the first section, which is smart city, the conceptual framework itself. If we can begin with Mr. Jagdish. What, in your opinion, Jagdish, is the understanding of smart city as a theme or a concept?
Thank you, Naresh. Congratulations to the state of Gujarat and India for hosting such a fantastic, dynamic forum here this afternoon and for the continuing coming days, Expo 2020. Naresh, it would be interesting for the audience to know that actually the concept of a smart city was floated some 10 plus years ago, actually way back in 2009 by technology companies. And it was primarily driven by the IBM and Cisco's of the world, where they were actually marketing their technology products. IoT had just gotten into vogue, routers were getting fancier, and connectivity, digital connectivity was pretty strong. And they were actually pitching the concept of connected cities and smart cities and that concept. But really, the concept today as it exists, from what I've seen it over the last dozen years or so, it has thoroughly evolved, and I think it's become quite mature today. Today, when you define a smart city, is no clear one definition per se. In fact, there is no one definition universally, but I can tell you that there are 4 pillars that fundamentally contribute to the concept of smart cities. The first one is the social infrastructure. The second is the physical infrastructure. Third is institutional infrastructure. And the fourth is the economic infrastructure. Under each one of these pillars lies a multitude of criteria which then add up to cities being smart or not. So under social, for example, you would have attributes such as housing, education, safety, security. In physical, it's primarily the infrastructure, water, power. Institutional is all about governance, transparency, and then economic is all about GDP and growth of the community. So these pillars is what creates the concept. And today's concept of if a city meets all of these criteria and the rankings, then it's defined as a...
Excellent. Thanks, Jagdish. Amit, what's in your opinion? Is there like a universal definition of a smart city?
No, actually, I completely agree with Jagdish. It started off as an IT platform to, because the minute you think smart, you think wires, think Wi-Fi connectivity. At most of the places, the minute you have a Wi-Fi connectivity, it's smart. It's actually smart, but quite smart. But now I think the fact that today the smartness has touched every aspect of life, not just manufacturing, living, conveniences, interaction overseas, that there is no real definition for a smart city. It's just one of those where you touch technology and planning and in a very integrated way, so that it aspects all aspects of human life, be it production, manufacturing, living, connectivity, business and personal alike. So, smart city is one which leverages all the present-day technologies in a very structured and integrated manner.
So quite a relative concept. Thanks, Amit. I hope Srinath is with us. Hi, Srinath. My next question is for you. Let's separate the two keywords, smart and city. How can we decode them individually, Srinath, in your opinion?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. First of all, my apologies for not being able to be there in person. But in any way, I will try my best to be as involved through this virtual mode. I think I look at it from a grounds of perspective, like from a brick and mortar perspective. In my opinion, city can be defined as an area where large number of people live in proximity. And a city is basically a hardware part of the smart city. I think this is where usually we used to operate prior to this concept of smartness got infused into these cities. And in my opinion, a city getting smarter where the value lies in how the technology is used, like where people are able to live and work within the city using its resources, and which helps to improve the operational efficiencies, share information, better governance, and coupled with, I think, improved citizen welfare and overall quality of the job, of the life. So this is how I look a city getting transformed into a smart city.
Fantastic. Thanks, Srinath. Jagdish, I come back to you. From different stakeholders' perspectives, how do you envision smartness? So there are stakeholders like residents, industrialists, environmentalists, government policymakers. What do you think? From a different stakeholder perspective, it must be quite relevant, relative, right?
Yeah, it's actually, it's an interesting comparison, but I would like to compare the needs of the city to like the needs of the stakeholder that live within those cities. And just like a definition of beauty, it's in the eyes of the beholder. I think the city desirability is in the eyes of its stakeholders, and each stakeholder, there are multiple stakeholders. We have the residents who live there. There are the industries who want to do business in there. There is the tourists, maybe. There are children. There is education. There are family members, homemakers. They all are stakeholders, and each one of them has a different demand. So if you ask a homeowner what their definition of a smart city is, they'll have certain needs because he or she wants to make their life easier and happy. Whereas if you ask an industry, they want to make sure that, the city has to be connected, it has to have all this technology, blockchain, and they want to make sure that the industry can survive in a very cost-effective manner. So I think every stakeholder you speak with, I will have a different definition. And going back to the earlier pillar concept, all of these attributes under each one of those pillars is really what represents the needs of the various stakeholders.
Well, excellent. I hope Abhishek is with us. My next question is for Abhishek. Abhishek, in your opinion, generally speaking, any greenfield smart city project to be built from scratch, how long would it take, according to you, please?
This opportunity to the member of this August gathering as well as this panel. To answer your question very precisely, since independence, India has just created 4-5 cities. To start with, we have the example of Jamshedpur, we have Chandigarh, we have Gandhinagar, we have New Raipur, and all these cities which has come up, there was, except Jamshedpur to my mind, no other city was having any other major economic activity to be undertaken as the backbone of the city. The cities which we are building as part of the industrial corridor program, the backbone of the city is primarily the manufacturing driven growth, where initially the factories will get set up, the workers will come in, their families will come in, then there will be the demand for residential, commercial, and other uses. And world over, it has been seen, whether you look at the example of China, whether you look at the example of Korea, it has taken around 12 to 15 years to build a city from a scratch. And normally, creating the infrastructure roughly takes nearly 4 to 5 years, then to popularize the city, then to make it reach a critical mass. It takes nearly 10 years for a city to populate, because unless and until you have an economic driving force, people don't have the tendency to relocate. So you have to generate that economic magnet for the people to come and start living in a greenfield city. So precisely around 12 to 15 years for a city to reach that optimum size and scale. And in terms of building and master planning, engineering, environment clearances, taking all approvals, doing the trunk infrastructure, road, drainage, sewage, effluent treatment plants, ICT, command control center, all that takes nearly 4 to 5 years.
Wow, seems to be quite a long gestation, and also must be involving a lot of investment. So that brings me to my next question also to you, Abhishek. How long would it take for such a project to break even financially?
See, when we went to the government of India for taking the financial and the institutional approvals of individual cities being developed initially in the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor project, we have done the financial modeling for every single city. In our structure, the value of the land is a state subject. The cost of acquisition of the land is borne by the state government concerned, while Government of India is making available close to 3,000 crore rupees for developing trunk infrastructure. So it's a huge amount of investment. But unless and until you provide plug and play infrastructure at the plot level for any industry or for any manufacturing activity, no international company, no domestic company will be interested in buying a land at your location. So it's very, very critical that you provide all infrastructure at the plot level for every industry. So when we did the financial modeling, we came to understand that you cannot charge a premium from the land you are selling it to the industry. It's very critical. The whole objective is to increase the share of manufacturing in the overall GDP of the country, rather than looking at it from a business perspective or a commercial perspective. Definitely, you can do a cross monetization by way of leveraging, by selling the commercial land, residential land, and the land meant for the institutional usage. So the break-even for a greenfield city will definitely depend upon how quickly the demand for the industrial land, the demand for the commercial and the resident land picks up. But on an average, around 13 to 15 years for a city to break even.
Wow, quite a long time, and fairly so. So we are at the end of the first section, and if I take a moment and then I try to acronymize the word SMART myself, I would say S for sustainability, M for mobility, A for activity, R for regulation, and T for technology from a smart city perspective. I mean, there are many realms, but I thought just to acronymize SMART in this context, it could be another way of looking at it. Let's start the next section, which is global smart cities, advancements and benchmarks. So we'd like to again start with Mr. Jagdish. Jagdish, you've traveled, lived, worked on so many projects world over. Which cities, according to you, are the best benchmarks for smart cities world over?
I think just like the definition of a smart city, I don't think there is a universal agreement on which are the top 10 or the top 20 smart cities in the world. I'll tell you a simple reason for that, because the surveys and the assessments that are made to judge whether a city is smart or not are done by many, many publications and organizations. And they have a multitude of criteria that they use, but they all fall under the same 4 pillars, by the way. But the criteria are weighed differently. And as a result, one publication might rank a city A X marks for that particular criteria. Another one might mark it only 90% of X. So it's really difficult to say which are the top 10 unilaterally, but I'll tell you that under many, many publications, there are about 5 or 8 cities that are consistently ranked highest in terms of smartness and good life. And those are cities like London, Singapore, Dubai stands out in one of them. There is Chicago, New York, Paris. They are pretty much consistent regardless of which association or publication ranks them. But then there are surprises every now and then. The latest survey that Forbes magazine in the USA completed, they listed Reykjavik in Iceland as pretty high. In fact, number 5. Now, that was a surprise to many people, but the criteria that they selected, such as social inclusivity, environment, which Reykjavik is totally 100% sustainable energy driven, but they ranked very poorly on urban planning. But I do want to continue, if there is one more minute I can have here, is that in Dholera, we made a very interesting exercise of benchmarking. But we did that only under the physical infrastructure component. And so under physical, as I mentioned, you have the water, wastewater, power, drainage, roads, open space. These are all elements of physical infrastructure. We took, in each one of those disciplines, we took the best performing cities. And I'll give you an example. For example, in water, Singapore ranks consistently as the best one in water. Their non-revenue water, NRW as we call it, is less than 7%. Their quality of water, the reliability is 100%. The quality is very good. So then what we did is in Dholera, we designed our system to actually meet or beat Singapore's standards. So our non-revenue water in Dholera, through the use of technology and SCADA system and IoT, is expected to be between 4 to 5%. That's better than Singapore's 7%. Our quality is defined somewhat similar to Singapore. So you see, we did this for water. We did this for open space. For example, in open space, Amsterdam has a boasting record of highest open space, 11%. Dholera, on the other hand, has 11.5% open space. So you see, we took these kinds of benchmarks and we compared Dholera, and that's why we can call it world class.
Jagdish, I have to agree. Your reflections are really intriguing. And why are countries actually building smart cities? And since when did this race for smart cities begin, including in the Indian context? When did India start making smart cities?
Well, actually, as we all know, the city building business has been going on for centuries. So it's nothing new. They are built for the main obvious reason of to tackle urbanization problems and other things that go along with urban planning. But frankly, the concept of smart cities, it started about 8 to 10 years ago. And something that is unique to India is we all have to realize that there are 2 frameworks of smart city in India. There is the Ministry of Urban Housing and Development, which has a 100 smart city program, and primarily they target to existing cities. So they are actually targeting cities like Chennai, Ahmedabad, Surat, where those what we call our brownfield cities are being made smarter to improve their physical infrastructure, to improve their institutional infrastructure. But then we also have what Abhishek is part of is the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, and now NICDC. It's under the Department of Commerce. And that program is actually creating smart cities to increase the India's contribution to the GDP through manufacturing. So you see, and these definitions have blurred sort of over time, and people all refer to Dholera as a smart city, when in fact, Dholera is in fact an industrial smart city, and it falls under the Department of Commerce, which is driven by the growth, the economy in the country, as opposed to making Ahmedabad or Chennai or Surat a smart city, is to improve and elevate the lifestyle in existing smart cities. So hopefully that distinction, and this has been happening since Honorable Prime Minister got elected in 2014. The 100 Smart Cities program was initiated, but actually Abhishek's organization and ICDC has been in business of smart cities since 2009, when the DMIC was formed with the Japanese Association.
Great, thanks. I've been informed for regrets that have come from Vishal. He is unable to join us. So I would in that sense, take a piece of the stage, and I try to reflect, some bit of research that I did before this panel. I realized that Europe has got more than half of the top 50 smart cities in the world. To be precise, I guess 27 out of top 50. And there's something called Smart City Index, which rates and ranks cities on so many parameters and criteria. And when I went to the substratum, there were so many factors that were considered. So this would range from economic activity, technology innovation, ESG, sustainability, then environmental factors, health and safety, education, mobility, opportunity, policy regulation, social cohesion, people perception, the perceptions of citizens and residents is also taken into cognizance. And not just the inmates in the country, international projection, startup ecosystem, just so many factors. And just if I take a quip at one of the factors, which is technology and innovation, there are like multitude of factors. You talk about blockchain, you talk about Internet of Things, digital identity, government e-services, autonomous cars, robo-parkings, you name it. So there's just so many factors, and it comes as no surprise that there's no universal definition for a smart city, and it's so relative even from a stakeholder sense perspective. So thanks, gentlemen, for sharing your deep insights. Here we come to the end of the second section. We start the third section, which is in the Indian smart city context, more from a developmental policy and roadmap perspective. Srinath, if I can come to you, please. What do you think is the role of private sector to build smart cities? Or do you think should all smart cities be built by the government with schemes like CSS, which is like central sponsored schemes, with or without private partnership? Srinath?
Yeah, thank you, Naresh. See, actually, any new smart city, if you look at, what does it do? It enhances the economic activity in the region. It creates a lot of employment opportunities, and which in turn, again, develops the GDP of the particular region or the country as a whole. Now, in my opinion, such comprehensive city development can only be led by the government. There is also an important aspect of land acquisition which comes along with the new city development. But definitely private sector can add a lot of values in the brownfield developments, as well as it can add value in developing the parcel of lands within the industrial smart city. Also, it can bring a lot of innovation, technology, and engineering knowledge, which can add to the development of that city infrastructure. like we do as L&T, we can build a lot of such infrastructure facilities. So we can add on in parcel of lands, but not in totality as a greenfield city development or smart city development. I think that is best led by the government, and private sector will find a lot of difficulty in areas like land acquisition and getting the funds for development of such projects. So yes, brownfield development, and in bits and pieces, the actual legwork for development we can do, but the initiation has to be led by the government. That is what is my opinion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srinath. Ahmed, I'm coming back to you. It was unintended to leave you on the side for so long, but it's just in the flow of things. You think, Ahmed, India has the talent, the resources, the technology to develop world-class smart cities today?
So I'll address this separately. One is if you look at personal talent, because end of the day, you could have the best technology, and the joke in the service industry is that the error is never the computer. It's sitting 6 inches away from the keyboard. That's the reality. But if you look at India, right, there's a lot of focus on education, technical, non-technical, specific, niche, or foremanship. Now, historically, those civilizations, those countries, those companies, those regions that have always fostered education, both by their own self, as well as allowed educate people to mix with their own, have always grown. You have historically the Alexandria Library, we had Pataliputra, today present as Patna. These were treasure troves of focused education, which help develop talent. It helps a person grow, opens their mind. Today, we are at that stage. I think, if you look at education-wise, we have 1,000 universities in India, 1,000. If I remember right, both central, state, all put together. But only 8% or 9% of Indians are graduates. And yet we see them all over the world, from US all the way down to a village in South India. Right? And if that 8% can make such a contribution, imagine what happens when the leadership of our respected and beloved Prime Minister, it goes to 10%. Then you take that caliber, and then you take the caliber of the present technology and merge them together and channelize them in an area like Dholera, where you have huge educated belts like Surat, which, if I'm not wrong, has 68% women who only educated, right? Or higher. Ahmedabad, huge amount of educated population. Yeah. You're actually able to mindfully grow the business. Technology, which comes self-developed, at the same time overseas, it comes in, like Jagdish ji has said, it comes in from the big ones, but they too need the people. So we have the talent. I think technology is there, out there. It is evolving. Nowadays, it's a global game. It's no one's business. You have people from all over the world develop different types of technologies. And we do have what it takes to actually grow. All we need to do is to actually foster this energy, grow this energy, foster this energy, and channelize this in very interesting focal area like the smart cities. Dolera being one of them, but others as well. And then you're bound to see the positive I would say, upliftment not only of the society, not only of the city, but of society in general. Because if Dholera grows, India grows along with it. It adds to the Indian development. That's my take on. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, fantastic, Ahmed. Jagdish, what are the programmatic essential elements for successful implementation of any smart city, to your mind?
Programmatic as in the execution of building a smart city?
I would say program as in a policy perspective also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think if once an entity, a government organization, and I do agree with Srinath when he said that it's best that the government undertakes such large projects, because they're really not business opportunities, but they are really growing part of the nation. It's nation building, actually. So it's best left in the hands of the government, but the private entity obviously has to play a big role in it. So from a programmatic perspective, I think there are half a dozen key elements which I think define the success of a smart city building. I think the first thing is having a clear vision. What is it really we are trying to accomplish? Is it greenfield? Is it industrial? Is it brownfield? We are uplifting the life of the poor. We are providing better education. Whatever it is, I think the vision has to be very clear, and then define how do you know when you get there. And that I've been on some programs where the vision halfway through has changed because of either economic reasons or ownership reasons, and that disrupts the whole process, and it doesn't quite work well in the long run. The second main aspect is the funding. I think we need to know what the sources of funds are. We need to know what the business model is going to be, and how are we actually going to measure the KPIs as to are we successful or not. And like Abhishek said, you can keep spending money, but you have to have some measure at the end of the day as to how well you have spent the money. I think the third major aspect is the whole planning aspect. In yesteryears, our only planning tool was a master plan, which actually looked at all the physical attributes and other parts of the overall planning. But today, I think it's gone beyond master planning, and it's gone into digital planning. You really need to look at what the digital requirements are for the future. It's not about just physical land planning. I think you'd also look at all the environmental planning, because from a sustainability standpoint, I think it's extremely important to do that. And then comes this whole issue of land acquisition. Yeah. Because that is a huge issue, especially in India, where the land acquisition models are different, and it could be extremely time-consuming and costly. Then comes the fifth step is of the execution. That's where you do your design, your staging, phasing, implementation. So I think you need a good roadmap for that. And then finally, last but not the least, is marketing. I think that really is an unsung hero because, frankly, at least up until now, Dholera is playing a huge role, and they're doing tremendous job at marketing. But I think the venture that we get into in building a smart city is so huge and so complex, and sometimes it's buried with a lot of negativity in public's mind, that you do need a branding, brand building, imaging, and then actual marketing as one of the strong pillars, I would say, that we must consider.
Wow, what a widely scoped answer, and very well put. Thanks, Jagdish. Abhishek, coming back to you, you think there's a confusion in India about smart city programs in general, or is there any?
What is the confusion like?
I mean, is there clarity, let's say, at a state level, at a smart city level, as to, what's the central government's vision? Because I just heard one of the panelists say there's a mass vision of having like 100 smart cities, and that's a fairly big number. So is there a confusion, or do you think there's a clarity at the ground level?
I think there is no ambiguity as such, but yes, because of the term of the smart city being used at different places in different fashion, this ambiguity has somewhat arisen. There are two different concepts of the smart city which is being propagated by the government. One is the smart cities, which is led by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. The smart cities are basically the brownfield cities turning smarter by the use of the smarter technology. So existing cities being made smarter by way of improving the physical infrastructure, by way of improving and adopting ICT as one of the major tools to monitor, manage, operate, control the city infrastructure. The second part of the cities is one which we as an organization, NICDC, is developing, which is primarily dealing with the Greenfield smart city development. So the mandate is quite clear. Any smart city, any industrial corridor which is greenfield in nature falls under our domain, and anything which is completely brownfield falls under the domain of the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, whereby existing cities are being made smarter. I hope I'm able to clarify.
Yeah, thanks so much, Abhishek. So I have another question for you. What, in your view, are the relevant KPIs? Is it like return on investment, GDP growth, intangible societal sort of elements, upliftment, economic development? From a government perspective, how does the Indian government measure success?
To be very precise, I think these KPIs should, to my mind, be measured in terms of two major factors. If you look from the point of view of a manufacturer, from the point of view of an industrialist, a businessman, then I think it should be measured in terms of ease of doing business and the way he used to do business, how much it has undergone a change. Does he dealing with similar kind of challenges which he used to deal 10 years in the past, whether it is about the road connectivity, power connectivity, water connectivity, sewage management related issues, raw material sourcing issues, evacuation of the final goods, and all the issues relating to the labor. So how he is doing his business now. So all that clubs, and it is a collective responsibility. It is not that if I am responsible for one particular vertical, I should be held responsible. As a government organization, we should be responsible combinedly for delivering the final product, which can be at the back end be tied up with 10 different departments. But from the point of view of a consumer, from the point of view of the user, from the point of view of the resident who will be living in that city, I think the only tangible measurement tool should be the ease of living. How fast he is able to access a mode of transportation. Whether the concepts of walk to work, which Jagdish just spoke about, are available. Whether what is the access to the public transportation system. What is the access to the financial system of that particular city? How safe a resident feels in that city? What is the kind of quality of air, water we are providing to him? Quality of living is improving or is deteriorating? Why a person will move from a full-fledged city or a full-fledged metropolitan to a greenfield city? Unless and until we give something plus in terms of quality of life or ease of living, nobody will be interested in moving from a city of Delhi or a Mumbai or Kolkata or Chennai to a tier 2 or a tier 3 city. But we need to give them something which they are not getting in these metropolitan cities. So I think ease of doing business, to be precise, and ease of living are the two major KPIs which should be the end goal and an objective for any city developer, whether the government or private.
Very well reflected, Abhishek, and very well coined, the two major things. And I'm told that you may have to leave. So thanks for bearing with us, Abhishek.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you. Let's move, ladies and gentlemen, to our last section, which is Gujarat in general and Dholera in particular as a smart city, its unique salient features. Amit, what do you think, what are Dholera's unique salient features? What makes it world class?
If I assume technology works, which often gets a lot more reliable, then it's not just a huge piece of land given at concessional rates. No, it's very well connected. It's very well planned. It's very well connected to the infrastructure. It's literally connected to the DFC that opens the entire India for them. It's connected to major metropolitan cities. It's got access all over India. So every aspect that we spoke about right now, how accessible you are, will people move from Mumbai or Delhi or Chennai or wherever they come from? Does the city have everything in this? When these elements are already in the planned phase, I think it starts entering into what it is envisaged to deliver. And that's what makes it unique. Because if you look at some other smart cities, it's just an envisaged piece of land besides a river which is dried up. This is actually in the works. The reason I also know why it works is because from the port of Pipavav, which I represent, Tata, who just gave the presentation, actually does import a lot of the chemicals. So I know that this is already work in progress. I know it's actually being delivered as we speak. And I was in Dholera about 3-4 months ago. I've actually been on the ground. So everything which we saw there, I could instantly reflect. So I think the fact that there was a vision, the fact that things are put into place, and it's actually being delivered, and with the scale that it can go up to, both from a personal perspective, industry perspective, technology perspective, governance perspective, it has every element that it takes right now to make it an industrial smart city.
Fantastic, Amit. Jagdish, I really would love to have your reflections, but I know because I know you've been so heavily involved for the last so many years.
Yeah. Thanks, thanks, Naresh. I think Amit has captured the essence of it, but let me just supplement that with a few other thoughts. Having worked on half a dozen large programmatic jobs, including smart cities, I think Dholera offers really some unique aspects which I have not seen in Greenfield industrial cities. I think, first of all, it's world-class. And the way we define world-class is, like I said, in every aspect of its development, we have tried to at least meet or beat the best benchmarks there are in the industry. So, hopefully in 15, 10, 20 years, when they have this continuous ranking, Dholera will consistently rank as number one because it's got the best water, it's got the cheapest power, it's completely environmentally friendly, it's got the highest open space area, it's got the best breathable air. If it ranks consistently high on this, plus the social attributes, good education, good schools, safety, security, through use of technology, I think you will find it ranking consistently high in about 10, 15 years. So world-class and its ability and possibility of being world-class. I think the second aspect I think is really unique about Dholera is the land parcels. Our MD, Harit Shukla ji had mentioned earlier, we have parcels from 1 acre to 300 acre size. And it's really not just about size, frankly. The key is in today's globalization, there is a competition to get business and grow the economy. So when a European aviation manufacturer or defense manufacturer wants to build a large facility in India, the minimum size they need is 50 to 100, 150, 200 acres. And they may also need a runway to test their equipment. So, but those kinds of land parcels aren't there anywhere in Asia. Philippines doesn't have it, Vietnam doesn't have it, Singapore doesn't have it. So Dholera becomes an ideal candidate for those kinds of industries. And then finally, I think along with these two aspects, I think the key aspect is it's Industry 4.0 completely adaptable. So we have designed the entire digital infrastructure. We have designed the systems, the integrated operations platform. Everything is ready for an industry to come in and do the plug and play and say, I'm Industry 4.0 ready.
Fantastic. This is really an opportunity for India showcasing its best to the rest of the world. Srinath, thanks for your patient bearing with us. You think is the construction or infrastructure industry ready in terms of human resources or let's say technology to undertake smart city projects of the magnitude and size and scale that India has got to offer?
Yeah, thanks, Naresh. I think this is a very apt question for us because I come from an EPC organization, L&T. And I would like to assure and emphasize here that absolutely, yes, we do have all the inputs, we have all the bandwidth. If I take the case of our own organization, Larsen Toubro, we do involve both in greenfield as well as brownfield infrastructure projects, including smart cities. And we provide a one-stop solution to the client, like what all is involved in a smart city, starting from building the roads, the water network, the SCADA system, the city surveillance, the power distribution, and also with the digitalization that we have gone through, the use of machine learning, artificial intelligence, also with our bandwidth of infotech outfits that we have, including Mindtrees. I think we have created a bandwidth and the infrastructure within an organization that an Indian company is definitely ready. And we even have expanded into the overseas market to provide an integrated solution. So I do very confidently can say that, yes, we are ready in terms of HR and technology. But of course, having said that, I have to admit that there are challenges in the availability of trained manpower. And that is one area where we are putting a lot of efforts as a country as well to upgrade the skill sets. I think there are various skill development programs that have been initiated by the government, and including our organization, we have 18 to 20 skill development centers. So this, of course, is a challenge that as we grow, we need to enhance the skill sets of the people. But yes, we are ready.
Wonderful. So let me pick a question from your answer, Srinath. How do you think Gujarat, or maybe Dholera in specific, compares with the Gulf region, or maybe any other country, in terms of construction or contracting?
Yes, I can definitely make a comparison because I was in Gulf for almost 18 years in Dubai. So I know the ease of doing business and the kind of facilities and the online approvals and permits, the labor laws, the dispute resolution mechanisms that exist in that part of the world. And I can confidently say, having done 2 Greenfield smart city projects in India as well, that Gujarat is definitely a notch up. And I think the land acquisition is very, very effective. We are doing some other very prestigious projects in Gujarat, and our experience is that client is handing over 100% land even before we start the project. Also, the getting the permits and approvals and finding solutions or solving problems across the shelf is also seen in Gujarat. So I think Gujarat is definitely a way ahead amongst the Indian other states as well. And if not at the level of international benchmarking, but the intentions are very good. And we can see that on the ground. So yes, we can compare Gujarat marching towards that end.
Wow, it's really a matter of pride. Amit, supply chain is one of the key criterion for benchmarking any smart city. So how is Dholera positioned to ensure, let's say, cost-effective, sustainable, green supply chains?
If I was to answer it in one sentence, I would say actually very well. Historically, if you look at supply chain, it was supposed to be fixed, it was supposed to be economical and reliable. But today, the entire paradigm has changed. It needs to be agile, it needs to be reliable, it needs to be resilient, and it needs to have a lot of capacity to absorb shocks. Now, that's where Dolera fits, comes in, and the position is to a certain extent so strategic from a logistics perspective that it would meet all these requirements. If you just start with let's say air as the first mode, high value goods, and there's a lot. When you actually drive down between Ahmedabad and Dolera, you find a lot of pharmaceutical companies. Some of them exporting, some of them importing. Yeah. You have Ahmedabad itself, which is not a small airport, and then you have Dolera, which is also building up a world-class facility. And we have already heard today that saying by 2024 you intend to have all of a phase 1 in place. So that's one part. Now, when you look at, let's say, the sea, which is 84% of the world's business goes by sea, in and out. The port, Pipavav Port, which I represent, is 190 kilometers by road. And it actually takes 5 hours to drive. And I'm not saying this because it's on the map. I'm saying this because I've driven that road and it took me exactly 4 hours, 54 minutes. So I guess 5 hours is not bad. And that can actually be a very resilient, because a lot of industrial cities today drive down 18 hours and they say, we really have a port next door. This is 6 hours, counting the break of a driver. And that's just one port, which is the port which I manage, which is connected to the Middle East, US East Coast, US West Coast, Far East, Europe. Now I really want to know what else is left. Maybe Arctic, we leave it out for now. Then you have the access of domestic. And we do about 100,000 containers of domestic a year. So if somebody wants to buy from East Coast, something in Calcutta down here, source or export it out, that's also there. And then you also have the DFC. And at this stage, I'll take 30 seconds that the DFC is such a game changer for India. Historically, the passenger traffic, when it came in, all freight stopped. Now you don't have that. You have a dedicated freight rates, which means it's actually bringing supply chain reliability, sustainability, environmental friendliness at a cost competitive, putting that structure into place. And Dholera is your first city dotted. and it's connected to DFC via Bhimnath. So you're connected well by road, you're connected well by rail, you're connected well by train, and you have options to go from all the place. So it's not just one port, not just one place. Like if you have in certain places, like center, you say you have just one port. With the location, you could have Pipavav, which is probably your default, but you have also, you drive down, you have Hazira, you can drive down Libo, you have Mundra, and which DFC you connect to Nhava Sheva. You choose. The person can actually make a reliable, agile, at the same time, a very flexible supply chain. And that to me is a huge enabler in today's supply chain market, because the next thing that's going to hit the supply chain today, the logistics business is archaic in technology. And, Jagdish did say that, blockchain is the next big thing. There are different platforms out there already. When you have these variabilities in place, then you need a technology enabler, which is today is going to be blockchain, which will hopefully join which will connect the physical plane, the financial plane, and the planning plane all together. Fabulous. So I think, it's really well positioned. We are already there. More will come. As the city develops, things will just flow into place. There's already a plan for rail-linked ICD, and we'll see how that goes.
Fine, great. I have one last question, and maybe Srinath or Amit, you may like to choose to take it. From a construction or infrastructure industry perspective, how do you assess risks? Because it's also important to talk about and factor the negatives and then try to mitigate those risk factors. Because we talked about so many positives, we should also be ready to have some risk mitigating plan. So Srinath or Amit, either of you, please.
Yeah,
You can go first. I'll learn from you a bit.
Can I go ahead?
Please.
Yeah. See, now, definitely a greenfield project has a lesser risk than a brownfield project. It's a well-known fact. We do face a lot of challenges in a brownfield development where the existing utilities and all the infrastructure that is already available, managing those, diverting them, protecting them. So it's a big challenge for a brownfield development. Like we are doing quite a few work in the existing cities and upgrading them. Whereas in the greenfield project, it becomes much more easier. The only problem, if I come to a specific to a Dholera kind of a situation, I think during the execution phase, we had a lot of challenges because this is what the government's plan is, that take up a barren land and develop that into a city and grow the economy of the region. So at the construction phase, as EPC contractors, we do face a lot of issues because of the climate, because of the water availability and things like that. But this is how it is, that once it develops, then for the end users, all the facilities are available. So we do definitely feel that the brownfield projects are much more difficult. The second aspect that I would like to say is we generally believe that the packaging of the project should be on a comprehensive basis, like a EPC turnkey solutions should be provided, so that the EPC contractor gets a lot of flexibility in coming up with a lot of value engineering and adding value to the end product. So we do feel that packaging of these such projects also should be on a EPC comprehensive turnkey basis, so that the client also has a lesser risk, lesser coordination efforts, and the contractor also has a free space to speed up the project, which is required for completing the projects on time. So these are the two aspects that we see going forward for any development of new greenfield projects that are coming up.
Great. Sorry, Amit, just in the interest of time, if I can invite each one of you gentlemen to share your closing thoughts on the topical theme today, which is defying the myth. You think there is really a myth, a hype that we need to demystify? If each one of you can be very concise and then have your closing thoughts, please.
Yeah, so I'll start. Thanks.
Please.
So I think to a certain extent, all the myths have been busted. I think we've gone past the discussion stage. Execution is there. It's unfortunate that the pandemic has slowed things down a bit. But to a certain extent, I think it would be now more, conceptually they have shown that it's smart cities is possible, can be delivered. Now it's all about saying, can it really be taken? Can it really scale up because infrastructure is a long range play. Nobody enters infrastructure for 5 years, 2 years. It's 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. So I think to that extent, the myth can be, it can be made a success, myth be busted. All we need to make sure is that the market part, which I was addressing going next from Srikanth, would be addressed, because that's probably the biggest risk. And then I think you should be good to go.
Thank you, Ahmed. Jagdish, please.
Yeah, I completely agree with Amit. I think the concept of myth, it existed about 10 years ago because we really didn't quite understand what smart meant and who was it smart for. Does that mean if you build a smart city, the people who live in it are dumb? They need something smartness. So I think those kinds of dialogue has long stopped now. I think we are past the stage. We are matured our concept. We know what smartness means to the people. The stakeholders have defined what makes them happy, depending on who they are. And I think this business of building smart cities is here to stay. In India, we are going to continue building cities because, as you know, there are many, many surveys that have suggested that India is migrating from rural, semi-rural areas to the big cities. That's where the growth is. And to accommodate all these migrating people, you're going to need cities. And if you're going to build cities, they better be smart cities, because that's what's going to make people to move from wherever they are. And that's what's going to take to attract the large industrial houses from across the globe to come and set up shop so India can be successful.
Very well articulated. Thank you. Srinath, please, your last thoughts.
I'd like to just put 2 points here. One is we take the example of Dubai, that what quality of life, mobility, public safety, sustainable and economical growth. So Dubai is a living example of what a smart city ultimately yields. And if you look at the UN report, it says that I think in another 30 years, the population of world is going to grow by another 2 billion. Now, these volumes definitely warrants us that what kind of legwork and what kind of work has to go in building these cities where the quality of life improves and also we can accommodate all these new additional 2 billion people. So I think there is a lot of thrust has to be given, and this is an area which will really needs to be grown going forward.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. So ladies and gentlemen, I think living here in Dubai, no discussion about smart city can be closed without talking about Dubai itself. We are blessed to be living in a city like Dubai, which is, to my mind, a front runner for becoming the best smart city in the world by 2030, 2035. To me, it's not if and when, it's just when. It's a question of time. And we are blessed to have such multi-able leadership and grand vision again. So thank you very much to one and all. I open the floor now. If there's any questions you want to maybe particularly ask to any esteemed panelist here, please.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. In fact, Power project has come to me about a few days back from our very dear friend from Ahmedabad, Neeram Madhavya, and we are seriously looking into it for investments. Now, my question to you, you are connoisseurs in the area, in the space of smart cities. Where does happiness index fits in this? And if at all, then what is the the benchmark or on this happiness index of this city?
Shot at it. So I think you're going by the Burma model, which has an happiness index. If I were to design a city's happiness index, I would probably weight it across all the stakeholders, and I would come up with what makes the stakeholders happy, and then somehow try to figure out what is most important. In an industrial smart city, I think, let's take Dholera, for example. In our activation area, almost 50% of the land is industrial. So that's like 50% of my population I have to keep happy. Now, what's going to keep an industry happy? To a CEO, he's not going to be happy if he can't make money, which means he needs effective processes. He needs blockchain technology. He wants reliable water, power, cheap. He wants good labor to keep his employees happy. He wants housing. So if I provide all of these, his happiness index is going to be fairly high. So I would say it just depends. I think that, again, there is no universal definition of a happiness index. It would have to be designed for individually for each city.
Can I just add one point to this, if time permits? Naresh?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. See, what I would also was thinking is that these smart cities are going to provide the residences as well as the workplace in the same complex. Now, what is happiness? Like if you look at Mumbai or anywhere, for that matter, even Dubai and other places, how much time we waste on the traffic on the roads in a day. So if these smart cities are getting developed where you have the workplace and your place of staying is nearby, it makes much more life. You can put more quality time and create that work-life balance also. So these are small factors which are going to add to the happiness of a person, even if he's not part of any development of that particular city, but even if he's working and living in that complex. So I think these smart city concepts are definitely going to have a lot of value add into the happiness index and for the individual as well as for the community. Thank you.
Just one closing comment. I think we touched upon earlier about rankings and different publications and businesses. I generally think that higher a city is ranked in the indices, the happier it is, because frankly, what it really is measuring is the grassroots parameters and criteria that makes the stakeholders happy.
Yeah, any other question, please? Yeah.
Hello, thank you for enlightening us a lot of knowledge that you have regarding Dholera city. You've spoken a lot on manufacturing within the Dholera context, but I would like to know more about the marketing aspect of it, and specifically regarding any production houses, regarding media, regarding films, advertising that is specifically meant to be made in Dholera, as I think it'll be a huge benefit to marketing the place, and it'll enhance the pop culture and drive more marketing out of it.
Okay, so I think you touched upon manufacturing industry. We have a very concerted effort we are making in developing, the marketing concepts to attract industrial houses. But there hasn't been any effort per se to specifically attract any filmmaking, digital filmmaking, or those kinds of media type houses or industry. I think our focus right now is more on the industrial manufacturing, because that tends to give us a bigger bang for our buck when it comes to GDP production. We've done a quick survey whether we should house an IT industry versus a manufacturing plant. GDP per person on an IT side, or the area they take up on an IT side, is far lesser than on the manufacturing side. So I think we have done our survey. We are now marketing it from that specific standpoint. But doesn't mean that in the future, as we grow and evolve, that media houses and filmmaking industry or others couldn't just come in and take over.
Well, honestly, a very good question. And India being a service powerhouse, it's all the more relevant, and definitely it's food for thought, it's feedback. Thank you. Anybody else? This gentleman here.
My name is Satya, and I have a question for Mr. Srinath Rao. So, like whatever Dr. Mustafa said, that happiness, continuing on the same lines, the feedback from citizens or the corporates to develop the infrastructure, how is that incorporated while designing a smart city or industrial smart city?
So if I get your question, you are saying how is the planning, how
priorities, yeah, what our citizen prioritizes, like if there are no proper roads, there is no point putting the speeding cameras. That's one example. So the priorities, etc. How are they decided in designing of the smart city?
I think maybe Jagdish will be a better person to answer, but as I know, the best part of these smart cities is that all the infrastructure is first planned and put on ground. And then only the end users are given the parcel of lands for development. And while designing all these, the total, whether you call it roads or water, that's the core infrastructure I'm seeing. The power and everything is provided at each of the plot entrance. So as Jagdish said, you just plug in and start your production or residences. Now, this is happening very much in India in various housing complexes also. So this is the core of smart city, that how a design is done so that the end user doesn't have to struggle for any of these utilities and in core infrastructure. Jagdish, if you would like to add from the design perspective.
Yeah, I'll just supplement what you said. I think here again, I'd like to separate the two programs of smart cities that we have in India. And I think it will make sense from that standpoint. The Greenfield Smart City program is run by the Department of Commerce. And obviously there is no customers there. There is no stakeholders, nobody's staying there. So obviously there is no feedback loop. I mean, we just know what is required and what the competition is doing. So that's how we are designing it to better with the benchmark. I mentioned that. But when it comes to the brownfield smart cities, frankly, the way we have managed them, and I've worked on several of them, the way we have managed them is we actually go into a city and do a survey. And it's done through town hall meetings. It's done through Facebook. It's done through media. And people have actually ranked and prioritized the improvements they want in their community. So for example, there may be some solutions that are universal, such as e-governance, everybody pretty much want it. But when you look at a city like Visakhapatnam, beach erosion was their top ranked improvement to make the citizens happy, as opposed to in Haryana, it was bettering the facilities so they can make bicycle manufacturing better. Because Haryana, as probably you might know, is the world's largest manufacturer of bicycles. So the same money, it went to beach erosion in one city, it went to manufacturing better, it went into tourism, it went into building light rail in Orissa, because to them, protecting their religious culture and the tourism was most important. So that feedback went into how the money was spent by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are running quite late already. And before we close, I cannot let Mr. Ankur leave without having a question, because you are representing the largest corporate house from India in this part of the world. I welcome you. Please, if you have any pertinent question, it will be great to take.
One or the other smart city, but in future, when designers, city planners are working on it, how do we cross-leverage the infrastructure which has been created in one place, so that facilities which may not be an integral part of that same city. So Gujarat, we have a lot of other developments, whether it is at the Mundra port, Mithapur, Sanand, etc. How do we leverage the infrastructure which is created within the smart city? So that's something to think about. Any thoughts would be helpful.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Ankur. Jagdish, we'll have to come again to you, please. You think?
Question or a statement? I completely agree with your comment. I think we definitely need to learn lessons from what we have done, and we need to keep improving. And I think if there is a way to, stand on one project and do the second one better, I think we should do that. And I think we will do that. I think in the life cycle of smart city development, I think we are an infant right now, frankly. I think this is here to stay. It's going to continue like this for the next 40, 50 years. I mean, just the NICDC corridor is building 7 or 8 smart cities along the different corridors. And then there's 100 smart cities, which is separate from these 7 or 8. So there's a huge investment in infrastructure. And already Dholera was one of the first ones out of the hopper. We learned many lessons along the way. And like I said, one of the lessons was marketing. We never thought we would have to market Dholera. Honestly, I've been there on the ground from day one, and it was, some of you might remember the movie Field of Dreams in the 80s. You know, the farmer wants to build a baseball pitch in his farm, but who is going to come and watch baseball in a remote town? But he had a vision that if you build it, they will come. And we were sort of in that mode. If you build a fantastic Dholera, they will come. But they aren't coming, you know, so we have to market. So that's a huge lesson that doesn't matter how good your product is, you have to create a brand, you have to market it. And that's one of the pillars of success for even a smart city.
Great. In my opinion, if I have to put a mathematical equation around your point or your comment or question, I would say smart plus smart is actually smart into smart. And that will be the way forward, perhaps. So very well put. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It was awesome to get the thought reflections of some of the most eminent visionary leaders in this space, which is Smart City. And I thoroughly loved today's discussion. And thanks once again. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the panel. And I would like to invite Mr. Dilip Brahmbhatt for vote of thanks.
Good evening. A very long and thoughtful session. We started with the conceptualization of smart city to the industrial growth and global smart cities, and then India in its smart cities, and finally boiled down to Dholera as a smart city. So we had an insightful discussion from the panelists. We are thankful to Jagdish Salgaonkar for his insightful discussion on Dholera, because he has worked on Dholera for last 9 years. Shri Amit Bhardwaj, we are thankful to you also for your expressions. We are thankful to Abhishek Chaudhary, who joined us online. We are also thankful to Shri Srinath Rao, who has joined us online. All these speakers have contributed excellent discussions to make this session a fruitful session. I'm thankful to all of you for participating in this session. Some of our members have also participated online virtually. I'm thankful to all of you. Basically, as it is told, Dholera is a city which has changed the concept from demand-based infrastructure-based, demand-based infrastructure to infrastructure-based demand. So that's how we are working on a smart city. Thank you, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.